What is up, guys and gals? It's Thomas Final One here, and today I've got something awesome to tell you. I went and saw Captain America: Civil War. It was amazing. Fair warning. There's going to be spoilers in this video. So to start things off, I really enjoy the fact that they had the death of Iron Man's parents come into play. And for those of you who don't read the comics, the Winter Soldier was being controlled by a German psychopath doctor, and he transformed his mind into thinking that he is a soldier that just will do whatever and what anyone says. And it's really, really interesting. And so that's that's how Iron Man's parents died. And then there's the fact that everybody in the world, because the Avengers were trying to save the world, they ended up killing a lot of people, like in Sokovia, Washington D.C. And then in the new area, Wakanda. And they all think that the Winter Soldier, who it wasn't the Winter Soldier, he ended up bombing. They all think that the Winter Soldier ended up bombing the UN nation, what's called the building, the UN nation's building. They were signing a contract that basically only allows the Avengers to go do what the government wants when the government wants them to do it. And so basically they were saying that the Avengers cannot operate under a single force anymore. And so that's how everything ended up going to shit. I really don't like swearing, but that's pretty much what happened. And then, the Wakandan prince, now the king, he thinks that the Winter Soldier ended up killing his dad, who was signing the peace treaty with the Avengers and all that fun stuff. The UN nation's building blows up. And the newscast thinks that it's the Winter Soldier, otherwise known as Bucky. But we all know the Winter Soldier didn't do anything wrong. And that's what Captain America's trying to prove to everybody. But Iron Man doesn't want to believe that. Iron Man wants to believe that the Winter Soldier is a huge murderer and he needs to be locked up for good. Which is pretty much what they do in the end. But the Wakandan prince turns out to be Black Panther. And he goes on a rampage trying to kill the Winter Soldier. And for those of you who do not know what Wakanda is, it's a country in Africa that pretty much is based off it's literally the largest source of vibranium ever. And the Black Panther suit is made out of vibranium. Now, what happens in the story is, I know you've all seen the trailer and Spider-Man comes in. What happens is that Tony Stark ends up granting these college students with an unlimited source of amount of money because, well, let's face it, Tony Stark's rich, like stupid rich. And he's giving them all a bunch of grants just so that they can put their projects to use. And he wants to see how far they take them. And one in particularly caught his eye, and it happened to be Peter Parker. And for those of you who don't know who Peter Parker is, he's Spider-Man. And so basically he goes in there, exposes Peter, and makes him a new suit, and he was only in the movie for less than a half hour. I mean, it's a great movie, but... Oh, and for those of you who are a little concerned about what happens to Rhodey from the trailers, what happens in the trailers is that it makes it look like the Winter Soldier shot down Rhodey, But what originally happened was the Vision was trying to get Falcon, otherwise known as Chris Wilson, and he was trying to shoot down the Falcon with the Mind Stone and couldn't get there, and Falcon ended up getting out of the way just in time, and Vision was the one who ended up shooting down War Machine, pretty much. And it was really interesting. I really thought that War Machine was dead, but he is not. He was put into a hospital. He was also put into these electronic legs. And so basically what happens is that basically this whole movie is about the Winter Soldier trying to clear his name, and they can't clear his name, and Captain America and all the followers of him are the only ones that are really thinking that they need to clear Winter Soldier's name. Another thing that I am really, really happy that they did is that they brought in Giant Man. They brought in Giant Man. Basically, for those of you who did not watch Ant-Man, Giant Man, Ant-Man, you need to go watch Ant-Man. But anyways, what happened was that Ant-Man shrunk himself too small, and he remembered that he had these grow discs that the doctor had stuck on his belt, and he stuck it inside the regulator because the regulator regulates how small he gets. And so what happened was that he shrunk himself so small that he would just keep on shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until he found like another universe or something like that. But what ended up happening was that he remembered that there was a grow disc on his belt, and he stuck it inside the regulator, which was broken, fixed it, switched it, and he turned regular size again. And so another thing that happened was that he said that it almost split him in half when he went inside the Ant-Man suit and grew, so many feet tall. And he grew so many feet tall and was like, I've only done this in a laboratory and it almost split me in half. And another thing that I kind of was irritated with is there is a scene where they get to the Quinjet. And the Quinjet, for those of you who don't know, in Avengers 2, Hulk, or Dr. Banner, ended up taking the Quinjet, and because it was cloaked with some sort of invisible force field or whatever from Mr. Stark, he took it and was going to go and stay away from the world. And so they found the Quinjet, but the thing that pisses me off is that they didn't find Hulk. I mean, Hulk was a pretty huge part of the story. For those of you who don't really read the comic books, and also, for those of you who don't know, they're going to need Hulk back for the Infinity War. And for those of you who don't know what the Infinity War is, you need to go watch Avengers 2, and you'll see Thanos grab the Infinity Glove, which holds all the Infinity Stones, and it literally will hold all the Infinity Stones, and it will be basically a weapon of mass destruction. And so, oh yeah, there's Bumblebee. And so basically that's all you need to know about Civil War. I mean, the Doctor ended up getting himself caught, and I was actually really confused, but the actor who plays Bilbo Baggins from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, he ended up showing up as a government guy, and I was really confused on why he showed up, but you know what? I don't really care. The movie was great. Go watch it. This is Thomas Found One Sam. Don't forget to keep playing with them trains and them toys. Goodbye.